Hi, and welcome to day 23 of National Diabetes Awareness Month. Every single day this month, I'm doing a vlog about a various topic, and diabetes, and today's topic is all about eating big holiday dinners. I have some of the best memories from my life filled with family and these big meals, but obviously type 1 diabetes can come in and ruin the day if you are struggling with high blood sugars or low blood sugars, and just like the stress of knowing how to bolus for a meal that you don't typically eat, that probably has a lot more carbohydrates than you typically eat, a lot more fats than you typically eat, and that can be really stressful and actually take away from the joyfulness that is meant to be on whatever holiday it is that you're celebrating. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support. In this video, I'm gonna give kind of my general tips. Obviously, not everything I'm gonna say is going to apply or work for you, and that's okay. I'm just talking about from my own personal experiences, what's worked well for me and what I've kind of learned along the way. So first and foremost, I always am sure that if I know I'm having like a big celebratory dinner, I'm not skimping on any other meals that day. So I'm having a nice balanced breakfast, a nice balanced lunch, so that by the time I get to dinner, I'm not absolutely starving and I feel good, you know? I have balanced sugars the rest of the day. So when I lead into whatever that meal may be, I feel my best. So trying to keep some kind of standard routine during the beginning of the day in order to set myself up for success for the end of the day, assuming that that big meal is at the end of the day. Secondly, when it comes to carb counting for these really big meals, I don't try to get it exact. That is just so stressful, having to like measure out my sweet potatoes that I put on my plate, having to count the number of whatever. I make a guesstimate based on how much I think is there. I don't just pull a number out of nowhere, but I think about it, but I don't really like stress about it or make any kind of, I don't do any measuring. I just kind of eyeball it. I eat what I want on my plate, and then I say, okay, I think that's probably about 30, that's probably about 50, this is probably about whatever, and I just count it up like that. I don't give too much effort into making the perfect carb count because I'm probably not gonna get that right, and that's a lot of wasted time, effort, and energy and stress going into something that is probably not even going to be 100% accurate. With that said, it really helps me when I am at a Thanksgiving dinner. Typically we host, or I'm hosting at like a family's house. So I like to feel like we should have this as a side, we should have this as a side. So I have some say in what meals we're gonna have, maybe things that I kind of know how to bolus for, and also things that I like. And then on the actual day, I'm also helping out in the kitchen so I can see a little bit more what ingredients are going into what. This also helps with the celiac stuff, being able to like kind of pull some stuff aside to make sure that I have all my gluten-free stuff as well. But it just also gives me a little bit more insight into how I might bolus for certain things. For example, eating a mashed sweet potatoes that have nothing in it is very different than if you're having like a sweet potato pie that has like brown sugar and like heavy cream and kind of those ingredients. So just knowing how each thing is made, because I'm there in the kitchen making it or helping out, can also really provide valuable insights. So once I have that like guesstimate of what I think my carb count is going to be, I do my dose. I typically don't pre-bolus for a meal like Thanksgiving. I typically am a little bit more aggressive with my bolus during a meal like this. That doesn't mean I'm going like twice as much as what I think it is, but I usually just, if I'm between two numbers, I would go for the higher one. And then the biggest mindset that I try to keep is that if I don't get this bolus perfect, I can adjust. And by that, I mean, if I over bolus and my blood sugar ends up kind of low, I guarantee you there's gonna be pie, there's gonna be tons of desserts, and I would just go for those maybe a little bit earlier if I start to see my blood sugar trending down. And on the other hand, if I under bolus, and I start seeing my blood sugar going up and it's not coming down, then I just give corrections. And typically I will follow the corrections based on the insulin on board that I have on my pump. However, If I'm like, gosh, this is going up a lot faster, especially after that like hour-and-a-half mark, sometimes I will add some additional insulin, even if my pump calculator suggests that I don't based on that insulin on board. I might be like, oh, I miscalculated that carb count definitely, or I didn't incorporate enough fat, so I'm going to add some more insulin. Again, this is really intuition. It's not necessarily like a set science. I don't have like a set thing where I'm like, after this time, I'm going to increase by this amount. I just kind of, I just know. And I know that that's not something that is really easy to hear if you're like, how do you do it? I really, it's just based on past experiences, paying attention, and then kind of knowing based on what that trend of my Dexcom looks like, what I think is going to happen next. And here's a very important tip as well, is that I do not feel regret or shame, no matter what my blood sugars are doing, no matter whether I get that, whether I'm making a ton of adjustments or I got it perfectly, or whether I'm eating more than I normally eat or anything like that. Shame, regret, any kind of feelings of like, oh, I shouldn't be eating this, or I had too much or whatever, not invited to Thanksgiving, not invited to any holiday dinner. They're never invited anyway, but especially at these dinners, I feel like they can really bring up those emotions. And I just really try to remind myself, like, and those kind of feelings, they're gonna take away from this time that I have with family or friends or whoever I'm spending this holiday with. So I try my best just to leave those kind of emotions far away from the table. And if I do end up getting a high blood sugar or a stubborn blood sugar or something like that, I just do my best to deal with it. Like, I'm not going to let that ruin my day. And that's way easier said than done. But it just comes with recognizing that I'm in a bad mood because I have a high blood sugar. And then maybe I tell my friend, maybe I tell my mom or my grandma, like, hey, let's go for a walk. That helps my blood sugars. I still get to spend time with them. And which brings me to my next point, which is that moving after I eat is something I like to do. I'm not someone who likes to watch football really. So when my family's watching football or like, something on the TV, I may help clean the dishes, like get up, get moving, may go for a walk, play with my dogs, hang out with, if I have like little cousins there, like play with the kids. And just that movement of my body helps the insulin work more effectively in my body, right? It increases insulin sensitivity when our bodies are in motion. And therefore it can help, especially if I start to notice a rise. Obviously, if I start to notice a drop, I'm not going to go for a walk. I'd probably go for the pie. But again, like I said, using movement as a tool to help with those stubborn blood sugars if that ends up happening. I hope this helps. I know everyone's holiday dinners are different, and on top of like the diabetes stress, being around family can be stressful too. I get that. So I really just do what I can and set boundaries for myself in order to be able to enjoy this day, because that's what holidays are about. They're about enjoyment and celebrating whatever you're celebrating. And whatever takes away from that, I think it's important to recognize that and make little steps in order to have a holiday that you actually love. As always, with any of these videos, take what serves you, leave what doesn't. I know all these tips won't be applied to everybody's holiday dinners, but this is how I navigate mine. Please be sure to stop back tomorrow for another video, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and have a very happy Thanksgiving or whatever holiday you are celebrating or using these tips for. See you guys later.